In today's fast-paced world, stress and anxiety have become all too familiar for many of us. In this video, I'm covering two of my most favourite, simple, easy-to-use tools and techniques to reduce stress levels really quickly whenever you need to. Both strategies will bring your nervous system back to homeostasis, which is baseline, when you've triggered your fight, flight, freeze stress response. I'm Jo Banks. I've been a professional executive business coach for almost 15 years, and I'm sharing what I know. Before we get into today's topic, I've previously done a few videos on our nervous system and the fight, flight, freeze stress response, including why it can be challenging to think straight when we've been triggered. So if you haven't seen those, I suggest going back and watching them after this. I'll leave the links below. They'll help give you some valuable background that I don't have time to go into in this video. Coming up in the next video, I'm going to discuss some longer term strategies that if you add them to your daily or weekly routine, can really help you build that all important resilience. So remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss it. Number 1, physical exercise and movement. When our stress response is triggered, a hefty dose of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline get released into our bloodstream. These biochemicals are designed to give us a 15-minute short burst of strength and energy to get us away from a physical threat. In other words, a saber-toothed tiger. And it's important to note here that our brains can't tell the difference between us being faced with a physical threat, so saber-toothed tiger, or think about walking down the street in the dark night and you hear footsteps, and a perceived threat, so think about panicking, worrying, overthinking. All of those things produce exactly the same stress response. However, when we panic, worry and overthink, we're not moving. So instead of those stress feelings abating, which they would naturally do with movement, running away from a foe, kicking and punching in that fight or flight response, they don't, because we're not using them up. So it stands to reason that regular physical activity, which doesn't have to mean running a marathon or flogging it out in the gym for a couple of hours, is massively beneficial for both our physical and mental health, as it significantly reduces those stress hormones. It uses them up for what they were designed for: running, hitting, kicking, and generally moving our bodies. The 15-minute walk. We all know that walking is good for us, but many of us don't realise just how beneficial it really is. So let me give you a quick overview of the benefits of walking for just 15 minutes, not 10,000 steps, which is the magic number we've all heard a million times. In fact, 10,000 steps equates to 4 miles and will typically take you an hour and a half, depending on how quickly you walk. So we're not going into the realms of 10,000 steps. We're just talking 15 minutes. In just 15 minutes walking outside, not on a treadmill, there are proven significant positive biological and psychological effects. And this comes from an amazing neuroscientist, neurobiologist, and ophthalmologist at Stanford, Andrew Huberman. He has an amazing podcast, the Huberman Lab podcast. So go and check that out. It's brilliant. In just 15 minutes of brisk walking so that your heart rate is slightly elevated, you will burn off the adrenaline and cortisol triggered by that fight, flight, freeze stress response. It also forces the release of what we call happy hormones, including dopamine, which is the reward chemical. That's what makes you feel good, as well as endorphins, which is a painkiller and a natural stress reliever. Plus, If you go with someone else or walk your dog, you release oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone and it makes us feel safe. Not only that, if that wasn't enough, daylight regulates our serotonin production, which controls our sleep-wake cycle. So if you're not getting enough daylight into the back of your eyes, you're likely experiencing disturbed sleep and an inability to concentrate during the day. Furthermore, moving forward outside widens our view and reduces any feelings of overwhelm. When we trigger our stress response, our view naturally narrows. It's our brain's way of trying to focus us in on the one big thing it perceives as the main threat to our survival. In other words, the saber-toothed tiger. The problem is that today there is rarely just one thing that we're worried about. So this natural narrowing effect is counterproductive, often leading to feelings of overwhelm. However, when we walk outside, our view naturally widens, and that's another throwback to our early ancestors. It does that so that we can be aware of threats that are coming from all around us. And if all of that wasn't enough, listening to something stimulating, for example, a podcast or an audiobook as we walk, is proven to enhance the positive effects of walking. It clears our heads and enables us to think more clearly. And it helps bring the prefrontal cortex back online. I've talked about this in previous videos. Prefrontal cortex, when we're very, very stressed, this is the thinking part of the brain. It literally goes offline when we're very stressed. Now our amygdala, the fight, flight, freeze response, takes over. Walking outside is so good for us that it helps bring that prefrontal cortex back online in just 15 minutes. Now, it isn't just walking outside that does this. We can also get the same positive effects from running outside and cycling outside, but it has to be outside. Of course, there are benefits from exercising indoors as well, but if you're feeling particularly overwhelmed, 15 minutes outside is amazing. I teach this in all of my corporate wellbeing courses. I suggest putting a 15-minute walk in your diary every day as you would any other important meeting, because it is that important. Many clients will tell me, I don't have time for that. My reply, you don't have time not to, especially if you're as stressed as you're telling me you are. If you do the 15-minute walk, especially when you're feeling triggered or activated, you will be better able to deal with the issue when you return home or to the office for all the reasons I've mentioned above. Cardiovascular exercise. Of course, if you can do more than 15 minutes, that's amazing. Engaging in activities such as jogging, cycling, dancing, anything that elevates your heart rate for at least 30 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week will significantly impact your well-being positively, burning off the adrenaline, cortisol, and triggering dopamine, endorphins. And if you exercise with others, you're going to release the oxytocin, the hormone responsible for making us feel safe. Yoga or Tai Chi. Both these practices combine movement with mindfulness, promoting relaxation, flexibility, and stress reduction. They focus on breath control and gentle movements that calm the mind. I know that some of my more type A personality clients can sometimes really struggle with this type of slower exercise, but it's equally as critical as cardiovascular exercise, as it helps you get better control of your mind and your body. I do yoga for a minimum of 10 minutes a day, usually longer, and typically I do a hip opener routine. I have a lot of hip pain. Hip pain is associated with stress, especially prolonged stress. And if I don't keep on top of it, my hips can become really painful. Again, I've done a video on why hip and lower back pain is a common symptom of prolonged stress. I'll leave the link below. Number 2. Breath work. Deep breathing exercises are another quick, simple yet powerful tool to counter the stress response. When stressed, our breathing tends to become shallow and rapid, contributing to heightened anxiety. Techniques such as the physiological sigh and the 16 count breath technique are clinically proven to quickly reduce the effects of a triggered stress response, again, quickly regulating our nervous system and inducing relaxation. So let's take a look first at the physiological sigh. Sometimes we just can't simply put our shoes on and go for a walk when we're feeling stressed. That's where the physiological sigh is extremely useful. I use it all of the time. It's clinically proven as a method that automatically calms the nervous system when we feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed. It triggers the activation of the phrenic nerve to the diaphragm and causes our lungs to bring in more significant amounts of oxygen. This is another brilliant tool from Andrew Huberman. He talks about it frequently in his social media posts and in his podcasts. We automatically do this breathing when we cry and try to talk simultaneously. We also do it during sleep, and dogs do it too when they settle down for a nap. The sigh reinflates the tiny sacs in the lungs called the alveoli, which balance carbon dioxide and oxygen in the bloodstream and lungs. It's effortless to do, and you can do it anywhere. That's why I love it. So how do we do it? Dead easy. Take 2 inhales in through the nose until your lungs thoroughly expand, and then take 1 long breath, releasing the breath out through the mouth. So you're just going to repeat that 2 or 3 times, and it should significantly reduce your stress levels. So it's and again. One more time. Next, we have the 16 count breath work. Apologies, but I can't remember who I need to attribute this one to. It was a well-credentialed guest on the Huberman Lab podcast, but unfortunately, I just can't remember who it was. It takes a little longer than the physiological sigh to feel those positive effects, but it's equally as good at bringing your nervous system back to homeostasis, and it's maybe not quite as obvious. So how we do this one is similar, but we breathe in through the nose for 4 counts, hold for 2 counts, breathe out for 8 counts, hold for 2 counts, and keep repeating for around 5 minutes or until you feel calm. In fact, any breathing combination where the in-breath is shorter than the out-breath will have significantly positive effects on your well-being. If you do it the other way round, so if your in-breath is longer than your out-breath, you're going to hype up your nervous system. And you might see people before they go on stage or athletes before a big performance do that type of breathing. They're hyping themselves up and getting their nervous system ready. The wrap-up. Stress and anxiety are inevitable parts of our lives, but they don't have to control it. However, for long-lasting change to occur, consistency is vital. And of course, these things don't work if you don't use them. Nothing I've taught you here is complicated. The hardest part is remembering to do them. So, as I mentioned earlier, put the walk in your diary as you would any other important meeting, because it is that important. It may help you to leave notes around either on your laptop or around the house to remind yourself to do the breathing exercises. By integrating these practical tools into your daily routine, you can effectively manage stressful emotions and build resilience. I'm a big believer in adding small things to your daily routine that make a significant impact. If you try to introduce big things, your nervous system will see them as a threat and end up self-sabotaging. It's the little things done consistently that make the most significant difference. With dedication and practice, these tools, plus the ones I'll explain in the next video, can become invaluable assets in your journey towards a more balanced and peaceful life. What next? In the next video, I'm going to give you some of my favourite longer-term strategies for managing stress and anxiety, including different types of journaling, meditation, self-hypnosis, NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, and more. Again, simple, easy to use things that are really not difficult. These are simple techniques that you can add to your daily routine or weekly routine that will, over time, help you build your resilience, help you manage your nervous system, and help you feel calmer and more in control of your life. If there are any tools that you use, or if you'd like me to cover something in particular that I haven't done already, please leave it in the comments section below. I do read and respond to everything, and I genuinely love interacting with you all. As always, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. Finally, thank you to everybody who watches until the very end, and thank you so much for your continued support. It really does mean the world to me.